Sounds really good. I love that. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to be going over my tones that I made with Archetype Abasi, and I'm just going to basically run through them, play some stuff for you, and break down how I got my tones. I'll also probably drop a Dropbox link or something so you can actually download these tones and use them for yourself. Yeah, let's get right into it. I'm just going to go run through the plugin real quick. It's standard Neural DSP, very, very pretty stuff. All Neural DSP stuff is, top notch. It just looks appealing and it's very accessible. It's not too crazy. A lot of programs these days, when it comes to guitar or making tones, you're going to run into issues not really knowing what things are. And they do a very good job at laying things out to where you can basically just okay, this is an amp. Alright, I'm going to start off with the pedals first. So we have it looks like a Logos pedal. I'm pretty sure it says Logos, but this could be a G. And then a Pathos pedal. So what's funny is when I first downloaded this plugin, I was completely using these wrong. The Pathos, I thought it was more of like a tube screamer type thing, but I messaged Neural and I was like, what's going on with this? And it turns out this is actually a preamp. So you can use this just as an amp into the cab pretty much, and it works also really well over the cleaner amp. So this amp, it works really well in conjunction to that. So, just a little heads up on that. Moving on to the amp, we have a clean amp, which this has probably one of my favorite features that Neural has ever done, and it's going to be the blend knob over here. And basically what that's doing is far left is just the amp, and then all the way to the right is basically taking your DI signal and doing some heavy processing on it, which creates a piezo effect. And it sounds super cool, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a bit. But that was probably what sold me right away, and probably made this my favorite plugin of all of them, was because of that knob. Also, fun little thing to bring up is you have these little features down here, but we have a tuner now. So now I can just do everything in this plugin and really not have to leave. I can probably do a full album with just these amps and just these effects, because it has everything you need, and you can do all the piezo stuff, almost acoustic-y sounding stuff. It's insane. Basically, yeah, when you get to this amp section, you can choose out of these 3 amps, and I made a tone with each one of them, so I'll show you my my experience with them and how I like to use them. So the first one is this clean amp. The second one is, I don't know what this is, but it's probably just a crunch style amp. The aesthetic of it's super cool. I really like it, with the wood panels and then the white. It just overall looks very aesthetically pleasing. And over here you got your, I'm assuming a 5150 6505 style amp, which to my knowledge almost all the plugins have one of these, which is my go-to because I really just love that traditional sound, and you can get that with this. Moving on, you got your, depending on which amp you have, it changes color, but it's the same thing. You get this EQ, which is very great for sculpting your tone if you're running into issues with something being too harsh or not harsh enough, in your taste. And moving on to the cab, which this was interesting because the Nolly actually had 3 cabs, I believe, and this only has 1 cab. And unless there's an option I'm missing here, I'm pretty sure there's just 1 cab. And I was instantly I was kind of thrown back by that, because you think that you would have more. But I found myself completely just loving whatever cab this is based off of, and that would have probably been the one I stuck with anyway, so worked out. Moving over here, you have a Kronos D, which D for delay, and then a Kronos reverb, or Kronos R, however you want to go about saying it. And yeah, you have your basic delay and reverb. Very easy to read, super simple, and very effective. The mix knob is actually, I found myself having to go super low just to get that subtle sound that I generally go for. And if you mix it all the way up, you can go insane with it. Alright, and then yeah, your basic input, gate, stereo mono, oversampling, high normal, and then the usual interface stuff. So I'm gonna just go through my presets, and I'll also, like I said, I'll explain the context that I like to use them in. So I'm gonna start with this one right here. It's called Amp Acoustic, and it's basically an ambient acoustic. And basically, to give you an example of how that would sound without that blend knob in there, I'm going to pull that all the way down, which sounds really good. The amp naturally just has like a great sound to it, but if you pull it all the way up, it has that very live sound to it, and I just absolutely love it. Here's what I got going on in the compression, just the tone all the way up level and compression almost at halfway. This is going to be utilized in the first amp. And here's the EQ. Pulled a bit of the 500 and then 125 because it got pretty boomy around here, so just took a little bit off that. And then the 2K sounded really good cutting through on that. So basically what I like to do is just emphasize the sounds that I like and pull away the sounds that I'm not liking at the moment. So the 2K sounded really solid, so I was like, all right, let's emphasize a bit of that. And then 125, 500, those were kind of like the problem areas that I was running into, because like I said, it was taking up a lot of headroom with this 125. It was like, and then the 500, it just kind of took away of that acousticy sound. It was pretty boxy, which generally I actually love boxy sound stuff, which you'll find out later. But in this particular case, I was like, you know what, let's take a little bit out. Alright, and on the reverb and delay side, pretty standard. I don't really mess around with these too much. A lot of times I just turn them on and just move some knobs till I find a sound I like. I really don't mess around with the settings too much, because I'm not really heavy on reverb and delay as it is. So I usually just turn them on, and they're generally in the ballpark of where I want. So next one, we have Charlie Deep Clean. So let's check this out. Very pretty. The delay sounds beautiful on that, and I just absolutely love it. And I believe, yeah, that's the first amp again. Okay, so now I have a Dreamy lead. So basically this is going to be like a darker sounding lead and very dreamy. Pretty straightforward with that one, but I love the way it sounds. Now, a heavy rhythm. So as you can see, I utilized the third amp, and I just love the natural sound of this. One thing that I did notice though is a lot of these amps to my ear were naturally pretty scooped, like in the mids. So I felt like I had to add a lot of mids, especially for some reason I actually dig boxy sounds when it comes to guitars. To me, that's where it's the characteristic of the amp really cuts through. And especially in this amp, I loved the way the mids sound. So just I felt like, you know, just boosting around the mids, pulling away of the 500 a little bit, because that was, I guess, taking up too much room in the boxiness for me, because I felt like the 1K was that sound I was going for, and then the 2K as well too. So I felt like I can take away a little of the 500 and, you know, clean it up and sculpt it to my liking. And generally I never will boost around like 8K, but I felt like it was just a little dark sounding. So I just pulled it up a bit and then just pulled this down. Didn't really do much, but, you know, just pull it down just in case. And then the 4K, I just pulled that down as well too. Moving on to the cab, I just pretty much did the ribbon and right there, up close to it, just get that in your face sound. And then right here, level is like pretty low on this Logos, and then the tones right there. Not too much going on there. It just tightened up the sound a little bit. So here's before. I just really love the way that sounds. But yeah, I like to use this as just like a huge heavy rhythm sound. Sounds huge, and I absolutely love it. Moving on to my next favorite tone, Charlie lead. So this is basically just a lead tone that I would use for like solos and whatnot. And with this one as well, I felt like I had to add a lot of mids because I do not like my leads to sound scooped. So what I got running on the pedals right here, pretty solid compression, but the level isn't too high on that, and then the tones all the way up just to tighten it up again. Right here on the amp. And then, yeah, like I said, I boosted those mids pretty harshly. And then moving on to low drive blend. This one sounds super sick. So this one sounds really good on your middle pickup position. If you have a 5-way, option 4 sounds really solid. But also just like split in between sounds really sweet too. Love the way that sounds. Moving over here, you can see that the tone's all the way up, compression a little less than half, and then a little past a quarter for the level. And utilizing the first amp, and I pulled back a little bit on the mids. The blend is only slight on this, so I wanted a little more of the amp sound, but the blend knob's just there to add that little shimmer that I really love. And then over here, a lot of times with like clean amps, I'll boost 250 adds some thickness, but this one sounded pretty good, boosting 500. With these EQs, they seemed very moldable. Like it didn't seem too artificial when you did crazy moves on it. That's one thing I liked about this is like on that lead patch that I had, I was able to boost those mids and it sounded natural. I was absolutely in love with that. Over here I got the Dynamic 57 right up close and then pulled back on that condenser. And as you can see, like a lot of times with like cleaner tones, I'll generally do this, is up close and then far away and then have it blend together and it sounds super sick. And no delay, but just a little bit of reverb. It's moving on to low drive lead. So this actually sounds pretty solid on your bridge pickup. So I'm just gonna mess around with a little bit on that. Moving on to like a middle position. Utilizing the first amp, tone, compression, and the levels all the way up. Got the EQ. You can see I boosted 500, boosted a little bit 252 to get that thickness in there. 1 and 2K are cool where they're at, and then just boosted a little that 8K to get that brightness that I was looking for. We got Dynamic 57, the distance at 0.10, and then 0.19 for the position. And there's the settings. Pretty low on the mix, actually. I would assume this is like around 1. It's already good enough for me. Alright, and then moving on to low drive split coil. So this is, I guess, what my main tone would be. I use them in pretty much all my videos, and I actually got a comment the other day, and someone was saying like, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, don't all your tones, I guess, sound the same on these plugins? And the answer is yes. That's actually on purpose, because my first thing that I do when I get these plugins from Neural is, okay, how fast can I make my usual tone, and how does it compare to the other one? But then there's the blend knob in there, and the blend knob added that little bit that I actually really dig. So to the, if you're not really, I guess, intently listening, it will sound exactly the same, but that's the first thing I go to. So yes, I totally get what you mean by don't they all sound the same. And that being said, this is my usual tone, and what I did was just pretty much completely bump this logos pedal. The compression's not entirely up, which depending on the situation or the riff with the drums or whatever the instrumentation is, I'll use different compression. And moving over to the amp, the gain is at like almost halfway, pulled back on the mids a little bit. What I found, I think I did, so yes, I pretty much pulled back on the mids so that way I can boost a bit on that 2K because I think that the mids that I was looking for wasn't in the amp mids. It was more this like 2K sound. And then I'm gonna run up on this I'm gonna run up so I'm gonna show you guys this the settings I have on this, and then I'm gonna play it for you guys. So this is my usual tone. One thing I'll mention is I generally like to have my middle pickup selection or fourth position. If you have like a 5-way switch, that's generally where I'm using. So I love the way that sounds. Sounds really good. I love that. Alright, so this is the Girthtown USA patch that I made. And what's interesting about this is I could not make a tone with this amp to save my life like the first 2 days, I think. I was like, I don't know where this sits. Like, it didn't drive well enough to be a high gain amp for me. At least it was too fuzzy, or I guess muffly sounding. And then on the low drive stuff, it just didn't go low enough to where I was like digging that sound either, you know? And I just couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, you know, I'm just gonna sit down. I'm like, I'm going to make a tone with this. I think I was actually with one of my students. And generally, like what I say is like you problem solve, you know, like, okay, what sounds are you looking for? What do you don't like? And from there you move forward. And I was telling him, I was like, honestly, dude, like I'm having a hard time making a tone with this amp right here. So if you want, like right in front of you, I'm just going to try and make a tone with this. And he's like, all right, cool. And I was kind of nervous because I was like, I spent 2 days already trying to make a tone with that. So I was like, I have to do this. And then I just sat there, and then instead of trying to make a solid rhythm tone or like a clean tone, I made like a mid-drive tone and ended up sounding super twangy sounding. And here's the EQ on that. Pulled back on that 125. It was a little boomy sounding. And then the 250 and 500 hertz, I wanted that like boxy girth sound. I just love the way it sounds. And there's the cab. But yeah, let's hear what this one sounds like. It's called Girthtown USA, and I just love the way it sounds. And yeah, it sounded nasty, Girthtown. What I did after that was, I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna try and make another one. And ended up making this one. It's called Girthtown Canada. I don't know, it was the first thing that came to my mind. So this is basically just like another rendition of that. So yeah, that one sounds super solid. You guys decide which one you like more. It was USA for a while, but I think I'm digging the Canada one now. I'm just gonna have to keep going back and forth between them two. So this one is percussive Aries, mainly because I'm playing on my Aries guitar, so I made this for this. These are brilliant pickups, and I was making it specifically so I can make a super percussive sounding tone. This is what the settings look like on that, utilizing the first amp selection, and then scooped a bit of the mids for this. And you know, remember I was saying like with higher gain stuff, I generally like to have my stuff borderline boxy. It's pretty much the opposite when it comes to like super low drive stuff. Try and take out some box on that. So yeah, here's this one. You can hear that it's very percussive, and it sounds super sick in context of like when you want to add like right hand rhythm elements to a riff. I love the way that sounds. then this is another one. It's based off Percussive Aries, but it's basically for when I'm going to do like harmonics and stuff like that. It picks it up a little more, so it's a little hotter. So let's try that out. So yeah, this one has like delay and reverb on it, and it's a little, I guess, it's not hotter, but I guess it's brighter over here. And you can see I boosted that 8K to really get those like harmonics to pop out. I love the way that one sounds. Love it. Alright guys, so that's my breakdown of Archetype Abasi. Like I said, I'm going to throw a Dropbox link down below so you guys can actually open these up and try them for yourself. Just know that it'll probably sound different depending on, you know, what monitors you have, what guitar you have, and also your playing style. So they might not sound exactly like mine, but I'm sure you can just tweak them around to, you know, mold to your own tone. Yeah, enough rambling. I'll see you guys later, and I appreciate you guys just watching my videos, so thank you. See ya.